Hello, welcome to your snack sandwich. Today I'm going to take a quick look at Elixir.finance. Now it's taken me a few days to read through this. I don't know, maybe I wasn't feeling so good, or maybe I wasn't too enthusiastic about it. But I did read the docs, and I did kind of understand it to a point where I feel I can explain enough of it that I can warrant a video. So basically what Elixir is trying to do is they're trying to reimagine the market making system. So they're trying to take the market making system as it is and make it more decentralized and permissionless and transparent. Okay, so just to give you an idea what market making is, for those of you who don't know, is basically adding liquidity below and above the price so that when people trade, there is asks and buys. There are people to trade with. Okay, so generally speaking, market making is done on centralized exchanges for the most part, right? Because on the centralized exchanges, there needs to be a buyer for everyone who's selling. But in decentralized finance, in DeFi, generally the liquidity pool is the buyer or the seller. Whenever you look at it, like the other party, it's like an NPC. Whereas in the centralized exchanges, there needs to be a person to trade with you in order for that trade to go through, because it's an order book system, right? So what they do is, in order to make it liquid, and so you don't have this problem of nobody's buying your sell, that they hire these companies, these large firms or entities or whales, to provide that liquidity. And those whales, what they usually demand, or those firms demand of the project, is a large allocation of tokens or some sort of huge fee, so some fees as well. So they do make money, but they also, it's not a highly profitable thing. So, and it is a service that they're providing, so they should be paid for it. However, people don't really like it so much because it's, not everyone can participate in this. It's usually the firm who says, it's ours. There's no public access to this service. If you want to take part in this service, open your own firm, right? So that's kind of the idea here, is to kind of decentralize this, make it more transparent. And they do talk about the idea that they will supply this kind of algorithmic market making to both centralized exchanges as well as DEXs. So I did read through the docs, and a lot of it doesn't sink too deep with me, especially when they talk about the math of the algorithm and kind of how they figure out the bid and ask spread and stuff like this. But you can go deeper and you can look deeper at this. I'm just going to give you a quick overview of what this thing does and kind of how it's going to work. And then if you really like this, as always, I would suggest you to go check out the docs and join the communities and ask more questions. I do notice that there's no app, or there's nothing I can connect my wallet to take part in this. So you're going to have to go into the community if you even want to try to take part in this, okay? And ask more questions. So let's go over to the docs, and I'll go through a few things in there, and then that'll be it, okay? If you would like to support the channel, I would suggest you to check out the Secret Sandwich.xyz. It's the Secret Sandwich NFT project. You can come here, you can mint an NFT, or you can come and check out your NFTs. Okay, so let's get back to it. Okay, so here we are on a flowchart in the docs, okay? And I'm going to just kind of quickly talk about each of these little nodes in this flowchart and kind of what's going on inside here, just so you can get a good idea. So the first thing they have is they have on-chain and off-chain. So when a project wants to get some market making done for them on a centralized exchange, so usually when you want to list your token on a centralized exchange, you require a large amount of capital to provide the market making. So they want to know that you have a lot of money to put on both sides, the upper and the lower, so that the trading experience for users is pleasant, right? So this is generally what I'm told, what Elixir has said is the requirement for most centralized exchanges to accept your token as a listing, okay? So they have this on-chain aspect where a project will go on-chain and connect to this Elixir protocol and set up what they want, and then the Elixir protocol will use the settings to create this strategy in this auditor node, which will then monitor the network of the Elixir network. Okay, the Elixir protocol network, okay? So it's made up of validators. So there's all these validators that run the strategy that's being told. And now their strategy might be slightly different than this because they want to compete with each other, right? In order to get to write the nodes, because this is a proof of stake blockchain. This is not Ethereum. This is the own proof of stake blockchain between these validators, right? And there's a 66% consensus here, and they all have staked the Elixir token, okay? So I think it's ELXR token. And if they do anything bad, then they get slashed, okay? And if they do good, if they write the blocks, then they get like validator rewards, okay? The largest portion goes to the person, the top staked. So you can take part. If you have Elixir token, then you can stake it with a validator and you can kind of get some of his rewards in that sense, right? So anything they do is like they're basically telling the relay layer nodes. So these relay layer nodes are the people who have the private keys to the exchanges. So these validators, you know, they say, oh, we have the solution. So they will send it to the relay node, right? And then the relay node will tell the exchange to set up those bids and asks and whatever that strategy that is been sent there. And the auditor will confirm that this node has done right and that strategy meets the needs of that strategy that was set up on chain. And then the exchange will, you know, of course, it's going to provide price feeds and stuff like that, and the exchange feeds, and that will go to a data aggregator who will also have to tell the auditor, because the auditor needs to compare what happened, what the prices are, and then what the commands were, right? And then obviously the validators need to access this data as well, okay? Over here, anytime there is a problem, right? So the auditor says, oh, you know, we said this and you guys did that, then they will tell the comptroller, and the comptroller will then be the contract that decides whether or not to slash these validators or to reward them and so forth. And then there's also all kinds of other stuff inside here about on-chain bonds and stuff like this and so forth. So I think that kind of covers it and gives you a good idea kind of what's going on. So let's swing over to the next part that's interesting. So here we have centralized exchange money markets. So there's two kinds of participants two kinds of programs that a community or a project might ask of their community to participate in, right? So they have bonds and liquidity mining, and it's basically what normal bonds in DeFi and normal liquidity mining is in DeFi, except it's done via API keys on a centralized exchange, okay? So if you are a part of a community, you might show up with like 50-50, so your community token and USDT, and you will, connect to this bonding contract, and then you will, give them the liquidity. So you give them USDT and you give them the XYZ token, and they will set up those bid and asks algorithmically on behalf of the protocol. So this is a bond. So you're going to get a 10% bonus paid out in 1 week or so in the token of the protocol, right? Of the project, right? And then that USDT you gave and that XYZ token you gave will then become protocol-owned liquidity running this algorithmic, market making on the centralized exchange. So bonding, okay? And they also have liquidity mining, which is, again, renting it, right? So again, you give them your USDT, you give them your USDC, you deposit them into their algorithm, they supply liquidity for you, and then later you get to take it back, plus you get some rewards in those tokens, okay? Now you do notice that this is something you're going to have to really read deep about, because they talk about the security aspects of how they protect your API keys and stuff like that. And if you're going to take part in this is something you need to look at deeper. I have no idea what this SGX and Shaman secret sharing code, and I just didn't want to dig really deep and read about this because I just didn't want to, right? So that's centralized exchanges. So they have bonds and liquidity mining, and then they also talk about decentralized exchange money markets, so helping to provide liquidity. So there's two ways to do this, okay? They have these central limit order books, okay, the CLOBs. So what I think of this is as kind of like gelato, like when you go to Sushi Swap, or you go to Spooky Swap, or any of these ones that have limit orders. Basically what you're doing is you're popping your tokens in, and then when the price hits that limit order, then a gelato keeper will is incentivized to make that trade for you, so you don't have to monitor it, right? So what they're going to do is you give them your tokens, and they will provide them above and below the price, and kind of create that money market, that sandwich. So they'll protect the floor price, and they'll take profits as it goes up into the top price, and then use those profits to move the floor price up. Okay, and then they talk about the idea of concentrated liquidity AMMs. So this is kind of more like, Uniswap version 3, right? So they supply liquidity along a range in different positions. Okay, this is not one position, these are all individual positions. So the majority of the liquidity is put in the price range, and then there's liquidity put on either side as it goes along. And as the price, as we see here, as the price moves forward, then these positions start getting closed or liquidated and moved over to kind of create deeper liquidity on this side. Okay, so that pretty much covers the services that they provide. And then there's some talk in here about the Elixir token. So this Elixir token is basically, like I said, the node and validator will have to stake it, right? You can use the Elixir token for governance. And then they talk in here about the Elixir token being, obviously they want a decentralized system. They want to create more nodes. They want more governance decentralized wise, right? So people can do that. And then there's also this idea of direction of fees. But inside here, they talk about using the fees to deploy protocol-owned liquidity of the Elixir token. So I think they will basically take those fees and use those fees to run their own system to kind of prove their own concept. Okay, so this is pretty much how I understand this. Like I said, I didn't study this very, very deeply, but I did read the docs carefully and read through everything, and this is how I understand it. If you are interested in this, go and check it out. Go ask the questions, read the docs yourself, and all this kind of stuff. And I hope this has been useful and interesting, and thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.